It's over!
He's done it again! Unbelievable!
Oh, straight into the roof of the net.
Nice one.
Straight down the middle. So a good performance from both teams here today.
Hi, you're watching Firstpost. I'm Rupha Ramani. Let's get started. On the show today, insights from the Indian Premier League. How different does CSK outfit look this season? How much of it is MS Dhoni's doing? What is un-CSK about CSK this year? Speaking of the unusual, Indian football team put up an unusually insipid show at home to go down to Afghanistan. We look at the contrasting campaigns. Is this the biggest low point versus a country on the rise? And speaking of a country on the rise, China is known for its sporting prowess. But is there corruption and coercion at the heart of it? The latest episode of the former football chief getting life imprisonment has thrown the floodgates open. And of course, there's an exclusive interview heading your way as well. So do stay on for that. But first up, Sports 360. Starting with football and the Euro qualifiers, Ukraine has qualified for the Euro 2024. This happened after their dramatic 2-1 victory over Iceland in their playoff final. In addition to Ukraine, Poland beat Wales 4-5 on penalties, and Georgia too resorted to penalties to beat Greece 4-2. Over in cricket, according to reports, Pakistan Cricket Board or the PCB are considering bringing back Babar Azam as captain of Pakistan cricket team. The decision comes in the wake of Pakistan's poor run of form under Shan Masood and Shaheen Afridi, their two captains for the longer and the shorter formats. Babar Azam stepped down as Pakistan's all-format captain, rather forced out after the shocking exit from the ODI World Cup last year. And speaking of comebacks, Shakib Al Hasan is back in the Bangladesh squad for their second test against Australia. Bangladesh, remember, lost the first one by 328 runs. The all-rounder was certified fit after recovering from an eye problem. Shakib has been out of the national team since 2023 ODI World Cup in India. He even fought the elections during that time away from cricket. Over in tennis, men's world number 2 Carlos Alcaraz's winning run continued at the Miami Open. The Spaniard reached the quarterfinals of the tournament. Alcaraz crushed 23rd seed Lorenzo Musetti 6-3, 6-3. He will next meet Grigor Dimitrov in the quarterfinals. And badminton, Indian shuttlers Trisa Jolly and Gayatri Gopichand got eliminated at the Madrid Spain Masters. They suffered an 18-21, 22-20, 18-21 loss in the first round of the women's doubles category. Their closely contested encounter versus Annie Zhu and Kerry Zhu lasted for 61 minutes. Now on to IPL, the Indian Premier League. Chennai are looking like a lean, mean machine. They did not just beat Gujarat last night, they basically pulverized them. There are a few observations from that game that I'd want to bring out here. To set all of this up though, we have to speak about change. It's inevitable, but not the easiest to handle or negotiate. Chennai and captaincy has always had just one name attached to it. That of MS Dhoni. So when MS decided to hand that over to Ravindra Jadeja some years back, it massively backfired. Few things that possibly affected that. One, the handover happened in the middle of the season. So basically the sync was all off. And it was with a set of players who have only known to follow the MS way of things, the MS leadership. It still had many of the seniors, plus we are on the outside, and Jadeja himself would admit that some, maybe grudgingly, that Jaddu was not cut out for this, and probably it was all too sudden too. MS learned from that episode, and I say MS particularly because it is his decision after all. In every franchise, captaincy is a united call of the franchise. All franchises, of course, barring CSK, because in that setup, MS has the say. It's not dictatorship as much as the trust and respect that the franchise has put on him. It's a given, done deed. So with Ruturaj Gaikwad taking over, the move was premeditated, planned. It took a while coming. There was a proper mentorship in place, not just because of the bust-up that the Jaddu captaincy handover was, but also because MS is MS. The franchise, this team, it's his baby. And when he's giving that ownership up, it will have to be in the way now that he knows there will be little chance for anything to go wrong. So who is the real captain? Now, I've spoken to a few around the team, a few key observers in the setup and outside too. And many say that Rituraj is learning and getting there, and somehow MSD for now is giving him that freedom. However, it is MS, and when he's around, there is no doubt that he's the true leader. As Deepak Chahar, of course, aptly said in an interview and asked who he looks to between deliveries for field changes or otherwise, and he says earlier it was only MS, but now he has to see both Rituraj and MSD. So MS cannot stop being captain even if he wished to. Some of the former CSK players who've, of course, turned commentators now also said quite cheekily that how can MS not be taking the shots or calling the shots here behind closed doors? The larger plan is his. But maybe this season is as much as it is about Rituraj learning the ropes as it is also about MS trying to let go, because that is tough. It is tough for anyone with the legacy to leave behind and tougher for someone of MS's nature. Here's the other thing that was new. CSK bowled 18 overs of pace bowling at the Chepauk for the very first time, 18 overs. 4 pacers in the ranks, in the ranks of Deepak Chahar, Tushar Deshpande, Mustafizur Rahman and a fit Matisha Patirana, and of course, Daryl Mitchell, who came in to bowl a couple. Ravindra Jadeja, the only proper spinner in the ranks, bowled only 2 overs. The most shocking un-CSK-like thing, which is pretty much the theme to the season. CSK like you have not seen them before. No MS at toss, no spin trio at Chepauk, troubling the batters. And here's the thing, despite 18 overs of pace, more than the number of overs of pace that Gujarat bowled, Gujarat still managed to get fined for slow over rate. And how did Chennai manage to evade that? You had to see it to believe it. After every over, every single person on the field, without confusion or being prodded or ordered, went and ran to their marks, to their positions, and got ready for the next over within 25 seconds. It happened like clockwork, like it was discussed and planned. A side that is completely transformed from that daddy's army that won them a 2018 comeback edition to a young brigade led by Shivam Dubey, Rachin Ravindra, Sameer, Manik, Rizvi, who thumps Rashid Khan with a 6 of the very first delivery he faces in international cricket, and of course a young pace bowling unit. Barring a few seniors in Ajinkya Rahane, of course Ravindra Jadeja himself and MSD, this young CSK side with a young captain at the helm is a completely new look 11. It is so un-CSK and yet it works. And here's the thing, it's all great when the team is winning and all going according to plan, but sport is not like that. It's unpredictable, it's reactive. It's so much about the uncontrollables, the opponents. So the real question is, how will it be if and when the losses come? And they will come in a tournament as long as the IPL. Will the cool and calm remain, or will that lead to some unrest? Speaking of unrest, let's preview the big one coming tonight, Hyderabad versus Mumbai. Both teams lost their matches to tight finishes. Hyderabad to Kolkata and Mumbai to Gujarat. But the big talking point remains Hardik Pandya. Hardik faced a massive backlash while captaining his new side against his old team in Ahmedabad, the city he belongs to. And that would have been difficult for anyone to face. The great thing though, right after that loss, was to see all the Mumbai Indian players, including Rohit Sharma and Hardik Pandya, come out and celebrate the festival of Holi together. Everyone was seen in great spirits, and that was good to see. The important thing is to move right on, and this game here in Hyderabad will be a new one. First of all, surprise, surprise, Hyderabad and home advantage has not been a thing. They've lost 7 of their 8 home games last season. For Mumbai, Suryakumar is still out and unavailable for the game. We won't see too many changes in both teams. My pick for the match for Hyderabad, I'm going to go with Aiden Markram. He's under the heat, he's facing the heat, and delivering at home would be the perfect way to kickstart his own campaign. For Mumbai, I'm tempted to persist with Ishan Kishan despite all that's going against him. But giving confidence to a player who is down is massive, and that can really result in the best outcome. But as an alternate, Tilak Verma. I give Mumbai the edge here. Sure, Hyderabad looked pretty good in the last game, and Mumbai has seen losing streaks at the start of their IPL campaigns, but this one is to get their new captain's campaign back on track, because the best moments happen when you're pushed to a corner. So maybe that's what Hardik Pandya will be telling himself. So translating that on the field is what we will hopefully see today. And of course, coming up right now is a very, very special interview. We spoke to AB de Villiers just a while back, the superstar in Royal Challengers Bengaluru outfit, and of course a legend when it comes to Indian Premier League, when it comes to world cricket. He of course shed light on a lot of things about this particular season, what he sees different, the picks, and of course he shares anecdotes from his relationship with Virat Kohli. Okay, joining me today is a superstar who's played for RCB, Royal Challengers Bengaluru, and quite the legend at the Indian Premier League. It's almost second home to him here in India, going by the fan base he's garnered. AB de Villiers, thank you so much for speaking here to me on Firstpost. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
And I'm sure you're relieved that I didn't refer to you as Mr. 360-degree, which is what you're probably used to 100 over times now by now.
I prefer that, actually. It sounds nice. I like that name.
Noted. Let's quickly get on to business then. You've seen the IPL so far. You've watched a few of the matches. It's all been very close contests. AB, who would you pick as your four at this point, going by the form and the results, to make it to the playoffs?
I'm going to stick with my four that I've been sharing with everyone so far. That'll be RCB and RCB to win the trophy, as well CSK, Mumbai Indians and Delhi Capitals. So yeah, I mean, it's still very early in the tournament, but those are my four picks, and I do believe RCB will be there at the end.
Wonderful. Just to, you mentioned CSK. I've got to ask you, going by the match last night against Gujarat, how strong were they? Are they the team to beat so far, going by these performances?
Definitely. They look very clinical, especially at home. Let's keep in mind they have quite a few away games coming up, so we will see what they're all about as a team moving forward, I think, in the next week or two. But certainly at the Chepauk in Chennai, they're very difficult to beat. They've got a 72% win ratio over there.
Yeah.
And it's just really tough. They're clinical. They don't make a lot of mistakes. They're smart about their business. But we will test them, or not we will test them, they will be tested in the next few weeks away from home.
Of course, you pick RCB. You're a true RCB in your heart. We know that, heart of hearts. What an amazing way they sort of, at least the first game against Chennai didn't go according to plan, but the second one, Virat Kohli, how good did he look out there?
No, amazing. I watched the warm-up closely leading up to that game, and I just could see a lot of focus in his eyes. You could see that he's fresh and is well-rested, and we all know he's been away from the game for some time now, a good 2 or 3 months. And I mean, I could relate to that. Looking back at my career, coming back from nice, fresh breaks where I could spend time with my family and friends and so forth, I always came back very motivated, very inspired, and very hungry to score runs and to have an impact on the team doing well. And that's exactly what I saw with Virat leading up to that game. And that's exactly what I saw in the field as well, with his fielding in that first innings. That's always a sign of a player who's really signed up for the teams for what they want to achieve that season. And with Virat in that kind of mode, it's very difficult to stop him. And it followed into that second innings with his batting as well.
He said something about how he's always just been a man whose name has been used to promote, but he still got it. You obviously have to second that and agree to that.
No, definitely. I think it was a bit of tongue in the cheek from him, just sort of sending a message across to perhaps his fans, maybe the selectors, maybe the teammates in India, maybe some of his competitors. Like, I'm still around, I might be pushing on with my age, and maybe I was away for a few months, but don't forget about me. I still got it, and I did enjoy that. And there's no doubt, class is permanent, and we will see more of that class in the rest of this tournament.
Just a few questions, and of course we'll let you go. One, we can't not ask you about your time in RCB yourself. If I got to ask you about the one moment where you probably all got very teary-eyed and the one moment where you were most happy, can you look back at that and would you be able to recollect that?
That is difficult to say. There were lots of amazing moments and lots of not so amazing moments. I think the best example of that was probably our 2016 season, where we played some of the best cricket of our lives, but also losing in that final. So we were so close as a team, but so much regret looking back as well, thinking like, things could have been different on that night. But still, I mean, I only have good things to look back on. And I think that 2016 season was probably the most enjoyable, where we felt closest as a team. But my whole career with RCB, just looking back with gratitude, understanding how lucky I've been to have been a part of that franchise, the friendships I've made over the years. So as a whole, just very happy with my time at RCB and at the IPL.
You know, you speak of friendships. We really can't look beyond you and Virat and the bond that you obviously share. The one thing that you really, really sort of treasure about that relationship, and the one thing that you tolerate about him the most?
Interesting. I think the difference between Virat the cricketer and Virat the human being is something I've got to tolerate, or had to tolerate over the years. He gets very emotional, very driven on the park, which I won't say we've clashed, but we've had our differences before. I've told him, like, Virat, I think as leader you need to be a bit more calm, and he just told me, no, but AB, that's what I'm like as a leader. I like to do that, you know. So, and I said, okay, I understand, keep going. I'm right behind you. I've got your back. Those are things maybe we've disagreed with over the years, and maybe the only thing. Other than that, we're pretty tight, and I don't have to keep up with or sort of take in anything from him. I mean, it's all just good stuff off the field. He's a good man with a great heart, very giving personality, who's always got time for everyone. So he makes it very easy to be around. And on the park, I think at this stage of his career, he showed a lot more calmness, less emotion. But I don't want to be the next bowler to take him on in this IPL. So stay away from giving Virat verbals, because it never works, people.
Right, it never does. So speaking of the next one then, KKR versus RCB, Kolkata, they've come off of a very, very close, amazing, scintillating win. So too RCB. How do you see that matchup going?
Yes, both teams fresh off a win, walking around with a bit of confidence. I think RCB will have the upper hand, playing at home at the Chinnaswamy in front of everyone. After that first win, everyone's tasted the victory now, and they would want more. The team, also the franchise, and also the fans and the people of Bengaluru will be coming out in their numbers, and I think it will be quite intimidating for KKR to travel over there. I think it's also a big advantage to have had a taste of the wicket and the conditions at the Chinnaswamy, which didn't look like your usual Chinnaswamy wicket. So maybe more of that, and maybe they'll have even better game plans going into this next game. So it's a big game. The team who wins there will really all of a sudden look good and find themselves at the top half of that table, and boast well for the rest of the tournament.
All right, last one. We know you tried picking up some Kannada in your past during a time in RCB. We hear that you're, of course, part of Jio Cinema expert panel, and there's so many languages out there. Curious to try your hand at any of the other ones.
It would have been nice if there was only one or two languages, you know, there's so many. But yes, I do try, and because of my cricket years over here, I've been trying to communicate with my fans, my loyal fans over the years. I think it's difficult for people who don't often get to hear English, and I have made an effort to speak a bit of Hindi. But over here at the Jio Cinemas, I've been hearing the big trend of Bhojpuri and also Punjabi of late, so I'll definitely try my hand with those two languages.
You'll nail the fan base here in India. That's it. No more returning back home for you, AB. But thank you so much. It's been a pleasure speaking to you as always. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Same here.
Right, let's turn our attention to football. A joyous moment turned bitter. A milestone ended in heartbreak. A special day ending up being a forgetful one. That's what India's World Cup qualifier against Afghanistan turned out to be for the talismanic India captain Sunil Chhetri. It was the Afghan brigade that registered a 2-1 win over India. Sunil Chhetri, who was playing his 150th international match, yes, that's right, a landmark game, also ended up scoring the only goal for the Blue Tigers. And that was the only moment of joy, really, that the Indian contingent experienced. Even though they were playing in front of a home crowd in Guwahati, that says a lot about the state of affairs in the country as far as football goes. The loss is a big dent to India's World Cup dream. That's certain. The bottom line coming out from this game. After playing 4 matches, India has only managed to win 1 and has lost 2 games. The only draw came against Afghanistan in the away leg just earlier this month. India walked into this game as favourites, as the team to beat, ranked 117th in the world to Afghanistan's rank of 158. But the Afghanistan side proved that ranking really doesn't guarantee your success, and it wasn't just the victory that stood out. Afghanistan's resilience that set them apart and helped them produce such a brilliant result. Picture this, a war-torn nation, Taliban in charge, which has hit sports and sport development rather hard. Countries refusing to tour and play in Afghanistan because of their restrictions on sports and women in sports. But none of the turmoil that is raging back home held these men back. And here's worse. Shockingly, this wasn't even their best 11. Afghanistan barely managed to put up a team together for the qualifier. The management and players are currently still locked in a heated dispute. Many players aren't even present after protesting over substandard treatment by the country's football federation. And unlike the Indian team, Afghanistan doesn't have a club season going on for practice, which means they are coming in with zero to no practice at all. And speaking of clubs, 4 of Afghanistan's players do not even have a club to play for. So says their coach Ashley Westwood. All these problems, genuine massive issues that could derail any campaign, was not stopping the Afghan brigade from giving their best, their all. They made these as tools to motivate them, much like their brothers over in the men's cricket team, who have continued to rise despite having a lot at stake. They were written off from doing anything other than possibly winning one match at the ODI Cricket World Cup 2023. They surprised the world by punching above their weight and silencing critics, much like the football team did in Guwahati. And the mastermind behind it all was their coach Ashley Westwood, the English football manager who's also managed Bengaluru FC. He's been a pillar of strength and guidance for this bunch, this B-team ragtag team. He voiced his pride though after the game, but the Englishman is not just satisfied with this victory.
We remained confident even when we were trailing. To be honest, we also could have won the earlier match. We were always the dominant side in the match. It was unlucky at 0-0 in the last game. We could have won that if we took our chances. I was not under pressure at 1-0 at halftime because I knew we would score. I never felt pressured because I always believed in the boys, and I am glad we got the result.
Fans at the stadium, in fact, echoed this, overwhelmed by the result, that the spectators, the Indian fans who had thronged the stadium in support of the hosts, India, started engaging in the Viking claps that Afghan players started to celebrate what the visitors had achieved. Not just because this crowd is appreciative of efforts put in by visitors. I can assure you no fan would be that generous though. Appreciative, sure, but there is rage and anger towards Indian team coach Igor Stimac, who came on board promising the world. And let's face it, it was arguably India's biggest footballing loss. India's last defeat against Afghanistan came way back in 2013. It was the SAF Cup final. But yesterday's defeat was even more painful, as it put India's qualification for next round under jeopardy. Apart from Chhetri's goal, it was a disappointing performance overall from the home side. They failed to capitalize on the home conditions, the passes were wayward, and even the crosses hardly reached their desired targets. Neither Liston Colasso nor Manveer Singh could produce results from either left or right flanks. And even Chhetri failed to convert chances early on in the game, understandably so, because Chhetri doesn't usually pair up with Manveer and Colasso. So that was also not helping the Indian cause. And these failures all piled up and haunted India in the second half. Despite leading at halftime, Afghanistan made India pay later. And dejected fans made their feelings clear. Soon the chants of Igor Stimac out started doing the rounds. But the man facing all the heat stands resolute and even a tad defiant of turning things around.
You can see that half of our players are not being able to bring that intensity, and I cannot change that in 5 days. I repeat myself again and again and again. I hope you remember all these players were the same players in June, July, and Afghanistan is not a different team than Kuwait and Lebanon, teams that we have beaten and dominated. I feel we can qualify, and I told you at the press conference prior to this, we are going to be a different team after the long camp. Definitely.
A defiant Stimac is still hopeful of India's chances, and he's right. Just a year ago, they've done the impossible. India beat Lebanon, Kuwait and Kyrgyz Republic, and also won 3 international tournaments within the country that included the SAF Cup. So clearly not everything is over for the Indian side. But that picture of Sunil Chhetri, the face of Indian football, burying his head in his hands, filled with despair and seeming helplessness after the loss, is what I will take back from this game. That's the picture that needs to change. So the big question, can this Indian team really put this loss aside and bring back that intensity? Because there is still games left to be played. Kuwait is waiting in Kolkata. That is early next month. And Qatar, an away game in Doha in the middle of the month coming up. And much at stake still, pride to play for. And if there is even a glimmer of change, the loyal Indian fans, fans of football, will take it. China, as a sporting nation, strong, defiant, and wanting to continue their quest as a giant when it comes to competition in sports. They've always dominated mega sporting events like Olympics and the Asian Games. But is that all superficial glory? The right statistics for the optics, or do they really care about sports? There's a thin line between having a winning mentality and winning at all cost. And is that bubble that China seems to have ensconced itself in slowly bursting? Because controversies continue to crop up in their sports administration in particular. And the latest now is the former head of China's Football Association being given life sentence for taking bribe. This isn't new. Controversies have engulfed sports in China over the years. So behind the winning mentality, is there something more problematic in their sporting system and culture that could mar their growth and dominance as a sporting giant?
A consistent top 3 finish at the Olympics only reiterates China's dominance at global events. Arguably one of the most successful sporting countries in Asia, China continues to reign over various sporting disciplines. As a country, they are known to have very regimented process to produce winners at the international level. They are dogged and stubborn when it comes to cultivating this rigid culture. A culture where sporting genius is developed from a very young age. And now it seems, much like the sporting system and culture that is a strong foundation, corruption too seems to be just as deep-rooted in the Chinese sporting system. Or is it just a series of bizarre coincidences and incidents? Let's find out. The latest episode is that of former head of Football Association Chen Zhuyuan being handed life imprisonment for accepting bribes. Zhuyuan's sentence concludes a long-standing saga of corruption in football in the country. According to reports, Zhuyuan pocketed $10.6 million out of $11.2 million that was supposed to go towards the development of the sport. It is no surprise why China's national football team is struggling at the international stage. He in fact accepted the allegation on live TV, a practice introduced by President Xi Jinping. This isn't the first instance of such an occurrence. In 2012, another former CFA chairman, Ji Yalong, was sentenced to 10.5 years in prison for accepting bribes. And it isn't just the management that has been caught neck deep in corruption. This rot runs deep and goes back decades. From the period of 1999 to 2009, several match-fixing scandals had engulfed Chinese football. Right from their top division to the lower divisions. According to reports, the 10-year period saw several matches fixed. It supposedly started with a 1999 match between Chongqing Longjin and Shenyang Haishi. The game was the final round of China's top football division. Shenyang Haishi won the match 2-1 under suspicions of heavy match-fixing allegations. But it isn't just football that has affected China's sporting reputation and legacy. During the period of 1990 and 1998, Chinese swimmers were tested positive for using performance-enhancing drugs. This occurred during Asian Games in Hiroshima, the 1996 Olympics. And the suspicion grew after China's 12 gold medals in 1994 World Aquatic Championships. And not just few. About 28 athletes were caught in the act. Reports coming out spoke of Chinese athletes feeling the pressure to perform and be the best. It's no wonder that in 2021, China was criticized for its Olympic gold medal training program. The country, in the name of laying the groundwork, was found forcing kids as young as 4 years old to train rigorously. And And instead of making the kids fall in love with the sport, they were made to do intense training. So behind all the winning mentality seems to be a misplaced sense of drive to succeed at any cost. If not corruption, then coercion. And if not that, the country most recently was accused of cheating. During the 2023 Asian Games held in Hangzhou, first it was Jyoti Yaraji. A Chinese athlete was allowed to continue despite a false start. And only after protests was the ruling changed and Jyoti was rightfully awarded silver. Olympic gold medalist Neeraj Chopra had to throw his javelin 7 times instead of 6 to secure his gold medal. His first throw was wiped out due to a technical glitch as claimed by the referees. So a question arises. China may be successful in securing medals, but can they be deemed as a sporting powerhouse if underlying all that success is corruption and a system that does not care for the sanctity of the sport? Behind that mask of wanting to keep sports first is a string of controversies that say that the Chinese sporting legacy might just be a tarnished one.
Time for last serve then. Britain's youngest Olympic medalist, Sky Brown, who won bronze at the age of 13 in Tokyo, is doing her skateboard tricks in an iconic London location. And assisting her are 2 vintage London buses. Take a look. Teenagers and prodigious talent then. But thanks for joining in for First Sports. I'll see you again tomorrow. Till then, of course, take care and bye-bye.